you spent 9 years as a volunteer, and then you got your own your own show, The Great Escape.
Yeah, exactly.
You were still volunteering while doing that show.
Yep.
So what was the show about?
Well, that was the show that was the imaginary soundtrack show.
Imaginary soundtrack show. Yeah. With the quotes from the film. Sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry. And then what happened?
I got it for 1 year, and then I got a phone call from Ruth Seymour, who was the president who passed away recently. She was that very special woman who brought Joe Frank to the air. So I think I thought that she would recognize my genius somehow, but instead she just said, you're not really part of the radio anymore. And she said, thank you very much. And she didn't even say thank you very much many times. She just said, once the door closes, it never opens again. And that was kind of it.
Wow, that's what she said?
Yeah, she basically just said like,
wow.
And I just said, well, is there a reason that I'm being let go? And she just said, no reason, but once the door closes, it doesn't open again. I was like, okay.
Wow.
My guess is at some point somebody listened to the show and was like, what the fuck are they doing at this time of the night? And like, what is this? Why is Robert Redford talking on our radio station? And why is there a weird African blues song playing afterward? And then I was like, okay, bye-bye. So I was like, okay. I learned a long time ago, like, I'm always happy when someone is
Do you have
interested.
those shows?
I do. I have recordings of them.
Can you put them online?
Yeah, probably. I think it's probably owned by KCRW, so I don't know whether they would come after it. Probably not, though. I don't think anyone cares.
They don't know those songs,
no,
or those quote films. So
how about this? If you would like to hear those shows, reach out to me through my webpage, supermusicvision.com. I'll send you a copy. I'm happy to send it over. But yes, it's. I think I was shown the door, as they say. But at this point, I was also beginning to get into music supervision. So I realized somebody had approached me from a record label and said, would you be interested in doing A&R? And A&R is essentially artists and repertoire. And the job is essentially, your job is to find new artists, sign them to the label, and then hopefully make money on them. The problem was, and I spoke to two people at the station, Chris Doritas and Jason Bentley, both who were very helpful. They had both been working at record labels and publishers, and they knew the industry more than I did. They were sort of elder mentors, as it were. And what became clear to me is that you need to have commercially oriented ears for that job to work. Right? You have to like things that will make money. And if there's any one thing I can say consistently in everything that I've liked, none of them have been particularly financially, valuable. Viable. They're all artistically interesting. They're very rarely things that become popular. I don't really understand pop music. I don't respond well to it. It's not something that's very interesting to me. So I was the wrong guy.
But there are
job.
certain people which, to their regard, the amazing talent or skill they have. They, for example, do not like pop music also. They don't respond well to it, but they can recognize it and make a business out of it.
True.
Even though privately they don't listen to it at all. They don't care. They don't care at all. It's just a business model. But they can recognize it and react to it.
It's a powerful skill, I think, and I think it's a very valuable one. I think for me, I just always really loved the soul of the artist coming through. That was the key thing for me. I wanted to feel that artist's soul coming through somehow. And most pop music is made with a goal in mind, And I think that if you've got 15 songwriters on something, it's a little hard to say where the soul is. It's a lot of people doing excellent craftsmanship, and I really respect and admire it. But I know for me, it's a little bit like going to McDonald's, It's like, it tastes like food. It's sort of weirdly delicious and salty in the right way and fatty in the right way, but all of it feels a little bit false and off, and it's the same everywhere. So I don't really feel like I'm getting nutrients. I'm not really getting anything. I want to like have a taste of grandma's sweat. You know what I mean? I want to know that like grandma was in the back sweating, and I got a piece of her sweat, a piece of her soul in that piece of fish that came to the plate. Like I want a sense of like she learned from somebody else about spicing, and that experience was interesting because she had a new understanding of spicing that changed her. And that moment of change in her is now imbued in her cooking. And to me, the music that does that is what I love. And the music that feels like it was manufactured very well and crafted the right way, it kind of leaves me flat.
Yeah.
So it led to this really interesting situation where I was like, okay, the A&R job was not a good idea.
So you didn't do it?
Didn't do it. I knew that I would fail. I knew that I'd have the job for a little while. They'd say, oh, we have this KCRW DJ. He's got cool taste in music, blah, blah, blah. And then I would bring them no money, and I would be gone in a year, if that, So someone said, why don't you look into music supervision?
Who told you that?
God, I don't remember who it was actually, but I remember that was a great moment. And Gary Calamar, my friend, was beginning to go in the same field. So I had my buddy from the music library also working with another music supervisor, a guy named G. Mark Roswell.
But how long did the music supervision existed as a job?
I don't know. I think it's one of those jobs that like it kind of evolved on its own. It was like, there were musicals and they would have music directors, right? Yeah. And those music directors would, help to hire the composer, get the lyrics together, show the dancers how to dance to those things. Like they would work with choreographers. It was so many different kind of practical jobs. I don't know whether it was a job as a music supervisor per se. Yeah. So I think that the job was really, it was new to me at this year, which is 1999.
Could you pinpoint like the exact time when you had like music supervision or music supervisor in the credits?
Oh my God. Probably the very first one was a wonderful documentary called Welcome Sinners, and it was about burlesque.
Wow.
And it was, of course, like everything in my life, it had to be the most difficult thing possible to start with. So it was a series of amateur dancers who were in a burlesque group called the Velvet Hammer, based in Los Angeles. They were going to have a live show at a venue called the El Rey. And at the El Rey, they would dance to these songs, and they would we'd have to clear them ahead of time because we were filming them. So in order to do the job, you have to research the rights. Now, because these were amateur burlesque dancers, they were not going after pop music that you could clear or that had a whole history license. They were going after softcore porn films from Germany from 1972. They were going after like Ukrainian folk songs because they had a background in it and they found it to be sexy. The music could not have been more obscure. And I had to somehow magically research these songs or convince the girls to dance to something different when this was all they wanted to do, which honestly is the most scary part of all, would be to talk to one of the girls and say, I'm so sorry, we can't find your Ukrainian folk song and clear it. Would you do something else? And then, they would, of course, be incredibly angry. So I decided that I would find all this music, and I dug and dug and dug, and I was able to clear these things. That was my first credit, and that was an incredible experience. Very, very difficult, but it got done. And I worked with a wonderful director named Scott Liu, who's also no longer with us, so respect Scott Liu. And then I did an underground movie called Shadow Hours, which was another difficult movie with an Israeli director, with an Israeli producer who had been best friends. I think the Israeli producer was a tech guy who'd made a lot of money, so he was helping his buddy, who was a director, make the movie. And halfway through the film, they got into a horrible fight where they were no longer speaking to each other. And the director was taken off the movie, and the producer said, okay, we're bringing in new editors. Isaac's not part of the movie anymore. Now you got to work with these guys and redo it from scratch. I want everything changed. So as I was doing this, Isaac would call me late at night and say, what are they doing to my movie? They're ruining my movie. And he was like trying to get me to make sure I wouldn't ruin his movie. So it was this weird situation where I learned an incredibly valuable lesson. Don't take sides. Work towards solving problems for everybody. So I would find the best music I could find that was affordable, that was interesting and dynamic and contemporary. I used music by an artist named Atticus Ross, who later became a big composer. He works with Trent Reznor on a lot of projects. His first band was called 12 Rounds. I heard them and thought they were really interesting. And it was a lot of dark underground story, right? Sort of like a Mephistophelian tale. Peter Weller was in it. And so I found a way to kind of bring all the music together. And then sure enough, the film got accepted at Sundance. Isaac got brought back on board. Now everybody's friends again, and everybody gets to celebrate it. The film got picked up. It got a lot of good attention. It's a small indie movie. But what I learned, which was so valuable, is just fix problems. Work with everybody. Don't take sides. Don't play politics. Be the solution to things. And if you can find a way to do that in a weird world of filmmaking, especially when there's egos involved and everybody's insecure and scared, you can find a way to bring that baby to conclusion. You can bring that child to the point that they can live on their own without having to, play this political game. And that was really valuable.
Yes.